Well, good morning. I think as you look at the life of Joseph, it's easy to begin to ask the question, where was God? When he, in his innocence, is facing all of these difficult situations. But I think the bigger picture makes us begin to realize that God was all over the equation with Joseph. I want to read you some verses that were in your devotion this morning from Psalm 105. Now this is from God's perspective with Joseph. It says in Psalm 105:16, when God summoned a famine on the land, he broke the supply of bread. And he sent a man ahead of them, Joseph, who was sold as a slave. His feet were hurt with fetters, his neck was put in a collar of iron, until what he had said came to pass. The word of the Lord tested him. The king sent and released him. The ruler of the people set him free. He made him lord of his house and ruler of all of his possessions, to bind his princes at his pleasure, and to teach his elders wisdom. Now, you watch the story from Joseph's perspective, and you feel like circumstances are out of his control as he's thrown into the well and ultimately sold into bondage to Egypt. But when you look at it from God's perspective, you recognize that God was in the process of using Joseph to go before his brothers and his people and to prepare the way for them to be safe in famine. Look, it says he summoned a famine, but even in summoning the famine, he sent Joseph ahead. I think it's sometimes good for us to realize that God really is in control. He really is in charge, and he uses us and our circumstances to accomplish his purposes on this earth. Another example would be with Nebuchadnezzar. You know, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, was an arrogant king, cried out in his arrogance, and God literally sent him out to a pasture to really be treated like an animal. But at one point, when Nebuchadnezzar turns to God, God restores him, and he says this: at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven, my reason returned to me, and I blessed the Most High God, and I praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, his kingdom endures from generation to generation. All the inhabitants of the earth are counted as nothing, and he does according to his will among the host of the heaven. Right there in that passage, it lets you know that God in this world is going to do according to his will and not necessarily according to your will. You and I need to understand that. Now, one more passage I want us to end with today is Isaiah 55:9. In Isaiah 55:9, it says this: for as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. God's will is going to be accomplished on this earth. That's why in the Lord's Prayer, he encourages us to say, your will be done. I really exhort you today to ask God to accomplish his will in and through your life, regardless of what you really want, because when it's all said and done, his will be accomplished anyway.